All right, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Eric Kamont, based here in North America with Microsoft, managing our partner ecosystem. And I'm joined today by two colleagues of mine, Ted Dinsmore and Dr. David Pearlstone. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. I wonder if you could spend a minute talking a little bit about yourselves, introductory wise, and then love to just get your point of view where you see mixed realities having the biggest impact in surgery and healthcare today.
So I'm Ted Dinsmore, president of SphereGen Technologies. We're a mixed reality partner here in the East Coast of the United States. We really have seen a number of usages in surgery, and I'll let Dr. Pearlstone talk about a number of them, but I'm going to throw in a couple with the remote assist functionality, doctoring, proctoring, where doctors are helping other doctors via the HoloLens remotely. You did?
I'm David Pearlstone. I spent most of my life as a surgical oncologist, practicing, and then after going to business school, ventured into the startup world, and I'm now CEO of DICOM Director.
That's amazing. So when we think about mixed reality, I know both of you have two different backgrounds, two different points of view on where mixed reality has gone. I mean, Ted, I'll just start with you for the second, because I know you've been a technologist your entire life. You see this, you came into the medical world from a technology side. What was the thing that drew you in? Where did you see the magic with mixed reality in the medical space?
So the magic with mixed reality, and I'll go from like virtual reality within the virtual world. In the mixed reality world, we can really interact and use the mixed reality device like the HoloLens as a medical device. We're integrating it with many existing medical devices, and we're really getting the features of being the real world with the mixed reality add-on.
That's amazing. And Dr. Pearlstone, obviously, again, you get kind of the opposite, right? You came in from a medical background into the technology world and mixed reality world. With DICOM Director, DICOM says it all, right? I'm taking all of this data about the human body and I'm trying to visualize it. What was the challenge that you saw you were trying to overcome when you were thinking about and generating this company?
That's a great question. It was really rather an amazing moment. Ted walked in with a HoloLens 1, which I had never seen before, and put it on my head and showed me something that I had literally fantasized about as a surgeon for years. I often tell the story of being quite frustrated and being in the operating room, doing a complicated surgery and reviewing the imaging during the surgery. And I'm literally walking across the room and looking at a piece of plastic held up in front of a light bulb. At the same moment, my children are at home playing video games with amazing holographic heads-up displays and things. And I thought that there is just a tremendous disconnect here between what's happening technologically in medicine and what the true capabilities are. And in walks Ted with this remarkable development, and I was sold. I immediately realized that the technology was where I had hoped it would be, and it's taking off from there.
That's amazing. And you said something I just want to dig in a little bit about, because you said there was this disconnect, right? There's technology at home. So it seems like for as advanced as something like medicine often is, there's this disconnect about the adoption of technology. And so I'm curious if you can just speak for a moment or two about, obviously you have this solution. How are you finding, what are some of the challenges, or what are some of the easy ways, surgeons and doctors are able to kind of embrace this technology and make it their own?
Well, my first answer would be, I don't know. When you figure it out, please let us know, because that would be the key. The adoption of technology in medicine is a fascinating subject, particularly in surgery in the operating room. Ted and I talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
And you can look at some really great historical precedents for that. The adoption of laparoscopy took a long time. Technology had been around for years, and yet all of a sudden it took off. Compare that with robotic surgery. Never existed, went from never existed to gotta have it within a year or two. So frankly, it seems to be quite a moving target about how adoption works in medicine. But I do think that there is a trend overall towards being more open-minded towards technology. Of course, there are always tremendous barriers in bringing technology into medicine because of the patient safety issues, and now, of course, patient privacy and all those things, sterility. That always creates tremendous barriers, no matter how simple the technology is. But it also has a lot to do with the adoption of the use of AR, VR, and mixed reality in the real world. When we get to the point where people are using augmented reality devices. They've got their HoloLens 2 in their kitchen, in their playroom, in their TV room, in their garage, working on their car, tourists. When it's that part of a life, it will be a very, very natural and important part of medicine.
Ted, do you have anything you want to add to that? I mean, obviously I realize, DICOM director, but I mean, in the work you're doing with SphereGen, you obviously are working a lot of custom dev things for hospitals and for surgeons, for doctors. Do you see the same struggle there, or are you finding something different?
Well, we are finding some of the same struggles. Like holography is got a longer track record to get there. People are embraced and excited, particularly from the medical schools. We've been seeing a lot of movement, and particular surgeons on use cases like ureterogram use cases. But we also are seeing the integration of all these different devices in the operating room simply because of some of the effects of how they're using the current technology. Like the endoscopes, they have to bend over quite a bit. Now, with the head-free display of the HoloLens, they can keep their head up. Well, that may sound like a simple thing, but when you're in surgery for 8 hours, that's a big deal, right? So the custom solutions we've been doing are really around having the doctor be able to have all the information he needs and him to be in a comfortable surgical position.
Never underestimate the importance of ergonomics in surgery. The more information you make available to the surgeon, which of course is important, every surgeon wants as much information available on a moment-to-moment basis as possible. But that information has to be accessible in an effortless way. And the HoloLens absolutely brings that. We're working on some really interesting projects, even beyond imaging, in terms of bringing all the information to a central, easily accessible local spot, and then from there it can be distributed to whoever needs the information.
And I think I love the fact that you guys are highlighting some of these things. I mean, we built HoloLens, not always knowing exactly where it was going to fit. It's like you built a hammer not knowing that the nails existed in the universe. And I think you guys are finding them, which is a lot of nails, which is great. But I think you talk about the ergonomics, and that was something that we, is a big deal, because you talk about heads up, hands free. And I had heard this from somebody else. I just love your thought. When they talk about the robotic surgery as an example, a lot of times they're not even looking at the patient, right? They're over here operating like a crane, and you got this patient that's almost like you kind of lose the humanity almost a little bit. And I don't know if you guys have a point of view. Am I totally off there, or are you seeing that as a big enabler?
Huge enabler. The ability to connect not only the patient, but take the head nurse scenario where she has to run the whole room. And if she has HoloLens on, it's a lot more efficient for her.
Absolutely.
There's not just the surgery and the surgeon and the surgery. There's a lot of people involved.
Very
and
true.
That not only interaction of how the surgeon's position, how the patient's position, but then how everybody else is interacting.
I'll take that even one step further. That's absolutely true. Just in terms of the day-to-day functioning and sort of the low-hanging fruit in terms of information access and running an efficient, smooth operating room. But to get to your question about, let's say we can use the term haptics, the idea of, are you actually physically touching the patient versus there's a big disconnect between you and the patient. And I have to think back to one of my mentors, and he would say that surgery really has little to do with your hands. It really, hopefully, has a lot more to do with your head. He would also say things like, we can teach a monkey to operate. It takes a surgeon to know how to operate. So that, you start to think about that if I can tell the machine how to do it, I know what to do, and that's what's important. Teaching the machine to do it meticulously and perfectly, maybe the machine can actually do it better than I could. That's a fascinating area, honestly. Probably scares a lot of people.
I think it's great because it almost feels a little bit like being a pilot, right?
Very much so.
You're the one who's in control of all of the fringe scenarios, but I'm going to sip my coffee while we're autopiloting across the country, in clean, smooth air.
Totally.
And I love the way you put that, because it is that, that's why you do all the training and things. So just switching gears for a second, right? So you've done a tremendous amount of work with DICOM. You guys have, packed servers in the cloud. You guys are solving all kind of big problems. What are some of the big issues still for surgery over, say, the next 4 or 5 years that you see that need to be solved?
Oh boy.
Acceptance of holographic. Right?
Yeah, certainly
That's the
for
big one.
us, exactly. The getting over these market adaptation and the idea of bringing mixed reality, adopting the concept of mixed reality into your day-to-day life. That for us and in the world of mixed reality I think is really one of the big barriers. But what I feel optimistic about that is it's an easy lift. And we have this experience all the time. It does not take much after putting a HoloLens 2 on somebody's head. Within seconds, you get the "oh wow" response, and you realize they get it, and they get it immediately, and they get it not just what I'm going to show them. Then they want to see how it works in architecture. They want to see how it works in tourism. They want to see how it works in cooking. They want to see all of the different things that it can do. So I think that in terms of in the medical world, becoming used to the use of mixed reality in our day-to-day lives is going to be a big thing. Of course, there's the old arguments of everything else, which is you're talking about people's lives. We have a zero tolerance for error. So trying something new is always a risky business. We talk about key opinion leaders. We talk about early adopters. There are definitely surgeons and physicians who are early adopters. They like the new technology. They are willing to do the first few cases with that technology. And those are important people because without them, we would not have laparoscopic surgery, we wouldn't have robotic surgery and all of these things. So I think that's where we are focusing in terms of the hurdles is dealing with bringing this adoption. And as Ted was talking about, utilizing the rest of the staff in the operating room. If the rest of the staff in the operating room is used to wearing a HoloLens and sees the beauty of mixed reality and the value it can bring, they're going to look at the surgeon and say, why aren't you wearing one as well? And I love that.
Ted, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, I think you've said it well. The creation of, we have done tremendous amount of work, as you know, Eric, of taking the CT MRI scans into 3D models and the Azure cloud. And that has been a huge lift with MIT and a number of different people we've worked with. And right now we have a great position where we can create good holograms based on that patient in that surgical position that gives the surgeon that X-ray vision that he always wanted, right?
Absolutely. To get down to the specifics, that's where we are working literally this week right now on our registration of mixed reality concepts of taking a hologram of a patient and actually putting it on top of that patient. And as I say, I now have X-ray vision. I'm looking at Ted, but I'm looking at Ted's CAT scan superimposed on top of him. And I can move around and I can go inside of Ted's head, which is a scary
thing. Yes.
Well, I mean, to make a very personal note, I mean, I had a my calcium score done. I handed you guys my DICOM data. You guys turned it into a hologram for me. I mean, I got to see what it would look like in 3D of my heart, which was just, again, for someone that's not even in the profession, you talk about that aha wow moment. I was beside myself being able to see it, let alone if that was my job and you're talking about nuance or in oncology, being able to be very precise about where that tumor is in the very specific section of that,
Sure.
cranium or whatever you got to do. I mean, again, my point being, if I got the wow and I work in the business, I can't imagine every doctor in the field having it even to, an order of magnitude higher in terms of what they can do and how they can impact that.
You mentioned virtual bronchoscopy.
I was just going to say, so we just went off, it absolutely ties in with this. We did a hackathon. And we opened it up to a handful of medical students, honestly, with not a tremendous amount of marketing at all. Sent it out to a couple of med students. We said, use our technology, find yourselves a CAT scan, and think of a clinical scenario where having this level of advanced imaging, three-dimensional imaging, would help a situation. Mm-hmm. I was blown away with what these guys did. In 10 days of access to our software, and they're just medical students, what they came up with was incredible. There was one where essentially they have invented what I'm now calling virtual bronchoscopy. Their model of the trachea and the lungs and a T4 lung cancer tumor I was able to visually, with the HoloLens, go down this patient's trachea out to the right main stem bronchus and literally go through the bronchi all the way out to a tumor that was in the chest wall virtually. This was done by a medical student in a week. Can you imagine what this is going to be like when it's in the hands of somebody with extraordinary skill and experience? I get so excited when I think about it. And getting back to your discussion before about where do we go? The medical students are the greatest place to work. You know, obviously they're the doctors of tomorrow.
Yep.
They are hungry. There is no barrier. They're hungry for the technology. Some doctors you've got to convince.
Yeah.
They're asking for it, and they are so good at it. It's really exciting to work with them. It really gives you a glimpse of the future when you see the med students starting to work with this.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I mean, and I want to take it up. I want to close on a high note, which I think is your point right there, Dr. Pearlstone, which is the medical students. They're hungry. They're taking it to the next level. They are the doctors of tomorrow, as you pointed out. And when you say, "Hey, I can't wait to see this in the hands of trained professionals," they're going to train themselves over their 4 years or their 6 years or 8 years of whatever work they're going to do, and then they're going to walk out for the next 20, 25 years, just like our kids, having been growing up on the internet and mobile devices and social, are going to show up going, "I learned on holograms." I mean, I'm very optimistic. It sounds like you are too, for what the future holds. So,
well, not only that, we plan that they're going to grow up on DICOM director holograms with Microsoft HoloLens too.
I love the plug.
Holograms, Microsoft HoloLens holograms of DICOM director.
I'm thankful for that. And thank you to both of you, to Ted and Dr. Pearlstone. Thank you for your time. And to all of you for listening, thank you for your time. Have a wonderful day.
Great. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.